Today we got Silverback Gorilla versus Grizzly Bear. What y'all think going? First, let me get my input. Oh no, it depends. I feel like a silverback is bigger than a bear, but it depends on what bear we talking about. But have y'all seen bears fight though? Bears really be getting to it. I mean, they be slamming, biting like, I don't know, but a gorilla, I feel like if they just keep heaming you, it's over. Like, there's nothing you can. And they got teeth. They grip his hands looking just like feet. They'll probably punch you with their feet. It feel just like these. And they use all these. They'll bite you, but they really use all these. They don't got claws. They just. I'm gonna say a silverback gorilla.
The Silverback Gorilla and the Grizzly Bear, two of the most fearsome builds in the game. Because they're not playable in the same servers, the question of which of these is more powerful, or specifically which one would win in 1v1 combat, is a common subject of debate on the game's forums. So today we're going to delve into the stats and abilities of both of these powerful builds, and determine which one would come out on top in a deathmatch.
If that's a size
Let's
difference,
start with the Gorilla. In my primate
there.
tier list video, I ranked the Gorilla as S tier, and it was the only primate other than the human to get that top tier rank. And there's good reason for this. Just have a look at this thing's base stats. The Gorilla is easily the most powerful of all the primates, with a power stat well beyond most mammal builds within its weight class.
Oh my god, bro. You at a zoo and that happens, I'm leaving. The chances of him cracking that glass are possible enough for me to get the fuck up out of Dodge.
Allow it to climb trees with ease.
Not
And keep
there.
in
Look
mind,
at buddy.
they
You
do
got
this
it.
without
You
investing
got
in
it.
any of the
I'm
perks
leaving.
which make climbing easier, like cling pads or hooked claws. No, gorillas do this on strength alone, and they still make it look easy. And so it should go without saying
Bro's just
that those
ripping
arms can
bark.
also toss most of,
He's just, what?
and they still make it look
Bro's really just ripping bark off the tree like it's nothing.
easy. And so it should go without saying that those arms can also toss most other players around like a ragdoll, and can dish out some serious damage. Those arms can
Why you
also
slung his
toss
ass
most
like
other
that,
players
bro?
around like a ragdoll, and can dish
he
out some
really
serious
just
damage in
slung.
a short flurry of blows. Gorillas also have massive canine teeth, and although these are mostly for intimidation, they can act as an extra damage-dealing
They're gonna
attack
smash
option if the
bros
situation
in the
calls for
face.
it.
Like, he
Mobility-wise,
really-
they move
Them is heavy though. Them is heavy.
an extra damage-dealing attack option if the situation calls for it. Mobility-wise, they move surprisingly quick given how short their back legs are. While not great at distance running, their burst movement potential is shockingly high. Defensively, gorillas don't have much to talk about. Their thick hide and bulky
You're
muscles
not
offer
running
some
away from
protection,
them either.
but with
He
only
gonna
skin and
catch
fur
you.
covering their exterior, most attacks will be effective against them. Luckily, their large size gives them a pretty generous hit point pool, so they should be able to tank a decent amount
Man,
of
they
hits
got
in
the
a
Spark
pinch.
Zero interface.
Stealth-wise,
They're funny.
gorillas are above average. Their coloration works pretty well in dense forests, although not as well as true camouflage patterns would. Because they walk on their hands and feet rather than hooves, they can move much more quietly than most herbivores, although not quite as silently as builds with padded paws and retractable claws. And finally, intelligence-wise, gorillas are far above average. Their complex social structure requires significant investment to the intelligence skill tree in order to unlock it. And in
Hey,
doing
he's
so,
smooth
gorillas
for
also
that. He said, man.
require significant
Said,
investment
but
to the
stop.
intelligence skill tree in order to unlock it. And in doing so, gorillas also gained access to basic tool use and team tactics. The most common tool use tactic seen in gorillas is the use of sticks and rocks in order to more effectively dig out termites from their mounds. Next, let's switch over to the brown bear. In my bear tier list, I rated the brown bear at the low end of S tier. Taking a look at its stats, we can immediately see just how overpowered this thing is. Although not quite as powerful as the polar bear, it's still one of the strongest carnivorous mammal builds in the entire game. One of the few that is able to take down builds like the moose, bison, and elk solo. Its power stat is just crazy high, mostly due to the
but the
insane
gorilla's
damage
lost.
a bear can dish out using its claw swipe attack. It's not
never know.
uncommon for a single swipe from a grizzly to one-hit most players, as it deals both blunt force
Man, what that
damage
bow
and
gonna
slashing
do?
damage in no small amount. Unlike the gorilla,
Bro, if you don't hit him in the head with the bow, you're done. It's over. You're logging out. If I'm in
blunt
this
force
situation,
damage and slashing damage in no
If I'm in a situation, please make it quick, man. I don't want to be sitting there getting yoked up by a brown bear for a solid 10 minutes. I don't even know, 5. There was this one movie where I think Leonardo DiCaprio was getting mauled on by a bear, but he survived. Take me out the game.
In no small amount. Unlike the gorilla, bears also regularly use their teeth in combat, rather than just for intimidation, and in this aspect they excel as well. Defensively, the brown bear is quite sturdy. It has thick, loose skin, similar to the honey badger, which allows it to absorb serious blows without taking too much damage to their vitals. And with an HP stat similar to the gorilla, even if their opponents do score a critical hit, it's unlikely to mean an immediate game over. Stealth-wise, brown bears fare a little worse than the gorilla. Bears may not stick out that much visually, but they are some of the smelliest builds in the entire game, to the point where their odor often gives away their position long before they're detected via eyesight. Luckily for the brown bear, its incredible movement speed and endurance can allow it to close the distance on fleeing players, even if they get a head start fleeing from the bear's scent. With a top speed roughly similar to a horse, very few builds can reliably escape a charging bear, especially given that bears can climb without issue as well. For those keeping track, this puts the bear's stats pretty much all either above or equal to the gorilla's with the exception of stealth. Of course, there's one stat we still haven't discussed yet, the bear's intelligence. When it comes to the gorilla versus grizzly debate, one thing that's often brought up is that the gorilla should be able to use its intelligence to easily outsmart the bear and gain a significant upper hand. Unfortunately for the gorilla, I vehemently disagree with this assessment. Not because gorillas aren't smart, but because bears are not dumb. A common quote you hear from human park ranger builds is that there's a great deal of overlap between the intelligence of the smartest bears and the dumbest humans, to the point where designing an effective bear-proof storage container is often impossible because it will also keep out a good number of humans it was meant to be used by. Bears are the most intelligent of all carnivoran builds, smarter than cats, dogs, weasels, foxes, seals, and hyenas. Their giant brains are a necessity in order to memorize key points of interest across their vast territories, and for them to strategize how to access the best quality loot. This isn't to say the grizzly bear is going to invent some galaxy-brained gorilla trap on the spot or anything, but neither is the gorilla. Gorillas are incredibly intelligent builds for sure, but their intelligence manifests in their complex social dynamics and their tool use. In this scenario, it's 1v1, so the social dynamics is a non-factor. That just leaves their tool use, and in this regard, I think most players drastically overestimate the gorilla's abilities. Gorillas are not supreme bushcraft weaponsmiths. In fact, their use of weapons at all is almost non-existent in the gorilla player base. They will use rocks to more efficient... Weapons at all is almost non-existent in the gorilla player base. They will use rocks to more efficiently access insect larvae, but as for personal defense, the only strategy gorillas have access to is the intimidation-based technique of tossing debris in an...
Oh, like for real, bro. If they just tossing shit at you, it's really about to be a rumbus situation. I'm getting a trank. If I'm a zookeeper in GTA, I take that back. But something's gonna have to happen, bro. I'm gonna have to use a shovel, sling it right back at you or something. There's no way. I'm behind the fence. You can't do shit.
In an adversary's general direction. When done in groups, this is extremely effective, and is often how a party of gorillas will ward off an approaching leopard in their natural ecosystem. But 1 versus 1 versus a bear, there is no way this would be enough to deter an attack. The bear's own high intelligence would give it a high chance to resist the intimidation effect. And once the bear has closed the distance, the bear is winning this fight at least 95% of the time. The gorilla would need not one, but several critical hits in a row to successfully take down a bear. Meanwhile, the bear would only...
They just revealed it. We clearly grizzly bear winning. How many silverbacks? So I'd say about 3-4 of them Johns. The bear is cooked. They gotta jump him.
Bear would only need a few good bites and swipes before it's game over for the gorilla. So ultimately, that's how I think this matchup would go. Admittedly, I think it's a bit unfair to set up a scenario where the gorilla's most powerful ability is taken off the table.
Look, you see what I mean? What'd he do? He said 4 gorillas. Look, told you. 3 or 4 of them Johns, but he's cooked.
A scenario where the gorilla's most powerful ability is taken off the table, but the bear remains completely untouched. But that's the downside of investing in team tactics. If you ever find yourself caught off guard with no allies nearby, You might lose battles that you should otherwise at least have a fighting chance in.
Oh, ain't no way, bro.
If you find
Come on.
If you find this analysis unsatisfactory, we can approach it another way, which would be to take a look at their matchup spread and see if we can find any easy comparisons. While gorillas and bears never encounter each other in the wild and have no experience fighting each other, both the gorilla and the brown bear need to contend with big cats. While obviously not in North America, on other servers, brown bears actually sometimes share hunting territory with the tiger. This is the largest big cat build in existence, one which is powerful enough to, on rare occasion, take down rhinos and elephants solo.
Rare.
Matchups between bears and tigers tend to be pretty even. While there are recorded instances of tigers defeating bears and bears defeating tigers, generally these matchups tend to end in stalemates, where neither player is truly defeated.
Oh, now we gotta see this one. I gotta see this one. This one, I'm going with the tiger.
However, when we take a look at the gorilla's matchup spread against its most common big cat opponent, the leopard, we see that the gorillas actually tend to lose this matchup. Leopards are far less powerful than tigers, yet nonetheless, even a leopard can score kills on gorillas. I think this is more a function of the difference in the bear and gorilla's defensive stats than its offensive stats. Even with its above-average constitution stats, the gorilla's low defenses make it too much of a glass cannon, and in a massive slugfest fight like the subject of this video, the inability to absorb a lot of damage is an absolutely crippling disadvantage.
Damn, bro.
No joke, I get this question.
Big body, get your weight up.
Absorb a lot of damage is an absolutely crippling disadvantage. No joke, I get this question at least once a week. It's to the point where if someone DMs me saying, I have a question, I just answer, the bear wins. And like 50% of the time, that's all they need. Now you know why. Hopefully you see me as an unbiased and trustworthy source for these sorts of analyses. But trustworthy sources are hard to come by these days. When new controversial debates crop...
Oh, clearly. That says it. Grizzly bear over silverback gorilla. I was wrong. 10 push-ups.